Hi. I get asked a lot about my health protocols, and I want to share with you today what I've done over the last year. I'm actually going to do a series of a few different things that I can share with you. And I'm not trying to be one of these people on YouTube who sells random shit and says that it's going to save your life, right? This is not random to me. This is very calculated, very thought out, very personal. So everything that I'm going to share, I really hope helps you in your own journey if this is where you are in your journey. So when my daughter was 2, she actually was diagnosed with lead poisoning. And we kind of waited that out, but she has she's got a lot of memory issues. She has a learning disability. She definitely presents with ADD symptoms. And she's really, sometimes there's just, as a mother, like I am very intuitive about medical things, about people that I am in direct relation to. Like even this morning, Chris got blood work taken and they called to give it back. And I said, well, this is what they're going to say. And he was like, well, you were right. That's what they said. So I will not stop at, oh my God, my child is presenting as like potentially bipolar or like is going to have this, like whatever's causing this, I want to detox her. Because I can feel, and I want you to understand what your beliefs are about vaccines or whatever, heavy metals are not good for the body. And heavy metals that stay in your body, the problem with it is that heavy metals pull things that are toxic to them and hold them there. So I could feel in my daughter, and I have this personal thing about it when I had 13 amalgams removed from my mouth by a holistic dentist, but she never told me to detox. She used charcoal and the whole bit during the process, but I was nursing my daughter at this time. And I also have an Agent Orange background. So when I was 20 years old, I went to a nutritionist. I said, I can literally do blow and fall asleep. I drink coffee and it makes me tired. I eat healthy and I hold weight anyway. So I got these amalgam fillings removed 5 years ago. I was still nursing my daughter at the time, which I have my own feelings about at this point. But when I went to this nutritionist and she first gave me a hair test, she looked at my results and she said, it's very clear to me that you're somebody who has Agent Orange in your body based on this test. Sorry about this light. And I found it fascinating that somebody could look at my hair and say, you have radioactive substances in your body. I did a ton of detox with her. And it was helpful, but wildly expensive. And years later, I still find the ramifications of that in my body, right? So when my daughter is presenting with these issues, and some parents might just say, oh my God, my kid's like nuts. She doesn't sleep. Her nervous system's super wired. She still doesn't sleep. She wakes up with night terrors every single night. That's not normal. And for me to just say, okay, this is something wrong with her, it's not something I would ever do. Like the environment she's in is making her that way. And whatever I have to do to mitigate for that, I'm willing to do. And that process can be costly in time and energy and financially. So I'm hoping to help you make it that easy for yourself with what I'm about to share, because after my daughter was diagnosed with lead poisoning, when she got diagnosed with a learning disability, I got her a hair test. And I talked about this in a video before. Her doctor, we go to an ND-DO MD. So they can prescribe allopathic medicine, but they first do the natural path. But this guy's new to functional medicine. So when we got the hair test result back, he said, her uranium and thorium are so high, I literally don't believe this test. And so I was kind of like triggered by that because he's supposed to be my doctor. And like, here's a test saying that this is what's so, and I know that I'm an Agent Orange candidate, that is going to have an effect on my daughter in some way. And So I got myself, my daughter, and my son tested. And all of us, basically, our panel was pretty much exactly the same. There was deviations, like barium was higher in him, blah, blah, blah. But for the most part, our thorium, our uranium, very, very high. So the doctors say, I don't really know where that could be coming from. It could be coming from your soil. You live in a mining town, blah, blah, blah. I did all this research. And these are things most people would never know about their body or their children's body. And the only thing that I could find was this correlation between radon, thorium, and uranium. So we got a radon test, and it showed that we do not have high enough radon at that particular moment in our house to cause radon poisoning. But everybody in my town had, like, when you look around now, I never knew it was a thing. But now I'm like, oh my God, all these people have radon mitigation systems. So we got one to be cautious. And in that time, we also found out that our water in Emmaus is bad and filled with chemicals. So I know, based on the information that I've learned, that MTHFR, which is probably very highly likely in somebody who's coming from an Agent Orange background, right? MTHFR is a genetic trigger, basically, a genetic off switch that makes it very hard for one to detoxify from heavy metals, from things that would cause them harm. And my guess is that the body, and this is just my guess about this, but that the body at one point, because of Agent Orange overload, couldn't fight the overload, so it just turns off its detox switch. And then that's turned off in my daughters. That's turned off in me, right? So I get these amalgam fillings removed, and I'm like, thank God they're out. I've like lost weight. Things don't stick to me the way that they used to. But I'm aware that because we've now learned, we've gotten blood tests to show that we have MTHFR 2 times over. So all of my children probably, I know specifically that it's in my daughters and myself through blood, but all of my children probably have this. So if my kids are receiving heavy metals from the environment, they're receiving chemicals that they cannot detoxify because they have MTHFR. And the compound interest of that is loading them up, right? It's making them toxic. My daughter is 16 and she was diagnosed with fatty liver, right? That's not normal. So her body is trying to process toxins that it cannot process. So recently, and this is the reason I'm sharing this with you, because recently I had such a wide open, like, these are not what people are looking for in allopathic medicine, right? So my daughter comes home, she has welts all over her body, like huge, she's scarred all over her body. She has white, like, her whole body is just done. Like, her skin is completely scarred up. Some of them are really pretty. They look like little tattoos. But she was tested for bullous pemphigold. And again, my doctor was like, that's crazy. She would never have bullous pemphigold. So it's got to be poison ivy. I take her to the dermatologist. They give her a punch test, and they say that it is actually her response to a heavy metal or a chemical. It is a spongiatic dermatitis, they say. So we take her to an allergist in the allopathic system. And she says, oh, this, she didn't know that we got the punch test. She said, this doesn't look like an allergy to anything, blah, blah, blah. They want to give her chemical allergy tests now and nickel. So I get her hair tested, and she's the only one in the family who hasn't had her hair tested yet. And I know last time I wore a belt that had nickel in it, I woke up with a welt on my stomach the next day that looked like a chemical burn. And I kept saying, I literally, like, is this some sort of like spiritual thing that's happening to me? But like, I have a chemical burn on my body. I know that that's what it would feel like if it was a chemical burn. And this is what her whole body looked like. And I didn't put this together until I get her hair test back. And her nickel levels are through the roof. And I'm going to briefly share with you what high levels of metal toxicity look like in your mind and in your body, right? So this is lead. Adverse effects on memory, cognitive function, nerve conduction, metabolism of vitamin D. This particular kid, they told me she should be on 50,000 milligrams of vitamin D every single day, or I use a vitamin D every single day because she doesn't have enough vitamin D. That's what her blood test showed. But if you don't correlate the blood test with the hair test, you're just getting one piece of information, right? So, high mercury levels, loss of appetite, decreased senses of touch, hearing, vision, fatigue, depression, emotional instability, peripheral numbness, tremors, poor memory, cognitive dysfunction, and neuromuscular disorders, right? These are things that are found in household products, ceramics, stained glass, blah, blah, blah. Electronics, right? So high nickel causes dermatitis, right? And pulmonary inflammation. My kid's inflamed everywhere. So this is another one she was high in, and it creates emotional stress, toxic metal and chemical exposure, physiological imbalance of calcium and phosphorus, bone mineral depletion, renal insufficiency with poor clearance of magnesium, right? These are violent behaviors, memory loss, anxiety, emotional instability, bipolar-like behaviors. How many of you have these symptoms, right? And you go and you maybe get a pill to take this and deal with your symptomology. But we're not, and this is where I really, I'm so grateful for allopathic medicine in emergency situations. But if we're not looking at the root of this, we're not actually doing anything other than putting a Band-Aid on a very serious wound. So now I'm intuitive enough I'm going to cancel her chemical test, her allergy test, because I know for a fact it's going to say she's allergic to nickel. And I don't want her exposed more to nickel. I want the nickel out of her body. So, and you can see her, I'm just going to briefly show you how high some of her levels are. And this is a kid who eats moderately, like mostly organic food, right? Look at all of those, her overall toxicity is in the 95 percentile, right? I fed her amazing things her whole life, tried to anyway. She loves sugar though. So this is a kid who eats probably better than the modern American. We have air filters in our house. We have, a reverse osmosis water filter at this point. We have radon mitigation. We don't use chemicals. I haven't used chemicals with her forever, but these are things that are still, actually, it was her, when I gave birth to her, that's when I stopped using chemicals. It was like very clear to me that needed to happen. That's honestly, the truth is, even when I was living with my parents after I had my two kids, the only reason, which is sad, but I'm grateful for it, the biggest reason that I saved up and moved out and bought a house without telling anybody was because I knew I was going to be physically sick if I stayed in that environment. My mom uses bleach, she uses a whole bunch of chemicals that my particular body, and congratulations if your body can process things like that, my body is so reactive to chemical exposure, it's almost unfair. And it's unfair that you can't see something like this, right? It's like so other people would never know, oh my God, she's acting like she's dizzy, she's like gonna pass out right now. And it's an invisible symptomology. It's not like all of a sudden I'm sneezing and, I'm just wicked tired and I get very dizzy. So rather than, say, okay, I'm going to not expose my kids to these things, and look at it from a lens of, okay, if my kid is got tons of heavy metals in her, of course she's acting this way. Of course her body can't filter out what's going on for her, especially if she has MTHFR, because MTHFR means that, every time she gets exposed, it's not leaving the body. The trash is not being taken out, right? So what I have done over the last year, and I have clinical results at this point to show you, I'm not going to show you them literally, but mine and my 7-year-olds, our hair test has come back within normal range because of one thing. There's many things that we've done, but one of the biggest things that I can say for a fact that my daughter specifically, because she is very picky about anything she eats or, this is what I used. It's called Advanced TRS Spray. It is a toxin and contaminant removal system. And I have given it to her every single day, and she takes it. because it tastes like water. There's nothing, it's just a spray. You spray it in her mouth 2 times, and her levels have come back to normal. And I can say unequivocally, there's some aspect of, yes, she was probably ready at this point to learn how to read because she's a little bit older and things like that. But I notice she's, even though she's still emotionally all over the place, she's able to learn in a way that she was not able to learn 6 months ago. So I have to assume that based on that information, I'm also giving her B12, because people with MTHFR are not processing or are not creating enough B12. So, and that's a super important, vitamin. So I am trying to get out her toxic exposure and replenish her. And there's something else that I personally have done that I'm going to share with you in a different video. But when it comes to children, and it comes to obvious, I went to the doctor and they actually discussed the results in the clinical thing in the morning, because Rain's were still very high. She's the only one who hasn't participated this whole time, right? She's a teenager. She's like, whatever, you're just a crazy hippie, right? And now she gets it. She's like looking at her test and I'm like, see, like, this is what you need to be doing. So when I can look at my 7-year-old and my own hair test and go, oh my God, it's obvious that something is working. The only thing that I've really done with my 7-year-old is the TRS spray. And in the beginning, I would try to give her cilantro, like liquid cilantro and water, but she would never take it. So if you are looking for something that is a contaminant remover of heavy metals, and I want you to think of this in terms of, I would see so many people come into the psychiatric unit, and you have to wonder, like, people can just say these people are nuts, but what's going on inside of their body? It's almost like you can feel this pull toward people who have heavy metals, or you can feel something about their body that is like actually in them, and they're going, get it out, oh my God. And that's kind of, my daughter presents as that. She used to present a lot more as that, but this like, get it out. Whatever it is, it's not right, it's not good, it feels bad to be in my body, right? And we could say that this is trauma, sure. We could say it's epigenetics, sure. But if we're also looking at it through the lens of like, okay, are you detoxifying? Are you exposed based on epigenetics or based on present day to toxins, radioactive substances, metals that you are either allergic to or cannot process, that have a compound interest in your body, that make your brain fog, make you feel bipolar, make you feel like you're absolutely nuts, right? It's not, you could have tremors, you could have physical symptoms, but the TRS spray is something that I can unequivocally say helped one of my children and myself, but I also did more than just that, right? To bring down her levels, and the effect of that come down is also obvious. So I'm going to put a link below to this TRS spray. I also want to say that the things that I'm going to be sharing with you in the series about what I have done, I don't know how any of their systems work or how they, sell or market or whatever, but I do know that from personal experience, it worked for me. I don't know what kind of kickback I get if you click the link and you go get it and it works for you. I don't know that on any of the things that I'm about to say, but it is a referral link. So there is probably a kickback for me somewhere. But my intention, truly, I wouldn't be sharing this, right? Like, I use Young Living oils. I love Young Living oils. I don't sell them for a reason, right? Because I'm mentally aware that my sensitivities make it easy for me to receive the benefits of therapeutic grade essential oils. But I have physical proof of the things that I'm going to show you, which makes me feel a little bit more like, yes, if you could have the same result as me, my compassion, because I'm always so scared, like, I don't want to sell, it's weird. My compassion leads me to have to, because if you have a kid who's going nuts, you're like, oh my God, my kids, a lot of people say TRS spray is very good with autistic kids, ADD kids, that's up for debate. But for me, I can say I have physical proof that it works. And now my 16-year-old daughter sees, like, okay, I showed her the results. Look, this was us a year ago. This is us now. This is what you need to do. And she's going, okay, got it. Like, she can see that the things that she is manifesting in her body and in her mind are not just her being a crazy teenager who's depressed and hormonal. She has freaking insane amounts of things inside of her body that her body literally is incapable of detoxifying. So I also have her on another regimen that I'm going to tell you about. But as far as my 7-year-old specifically, she has less, she's got less in her body maybe at this point than my daughter who's 16, who has the compounded interest of all these years. This was the only and number one thing that I did with her that I can say, here it is, proof on paper. It worked. It worked. So yes, I always want to go for the root, not the symptom, in therapy, in my own physical body, in my health. So this for me feels more rooted than going, oh my God, my teenager is just allergic to nickel and she's kind of acting like an asshole. That's not what's going on. She's literally overridden with things in her body, despite being in a home that I don't use chemicals and we eat mostly organic food and I try very hard to like mitigate for these things. She's coming from an Agent Orange background. If you are a person who grew up with parents who were either growing up on a farm, I come from it from both ways. My father was in Vietnam on the ground for the heaviest time in Nam, right? And my mother grew up on a farm where I used to run through the orchard. They'd be spraying pesticides in planes while we were running through the orchard having a great time, right? That is a double whammy. So if you're coming in with a line, even if you weren't necessarily exposed to these things or think that you're exposed to these things in life, we could be coming in with them from an epigenetic, body. And if you have the double whammy of, oh my God, I have Agent Orange exposure and MTHFR, likely from the Agent Orange exposure, you're being exposed to things, and even in subtle amounts, they accumulate in the body. And the effect of that is usually unknown and not analyzed by most people. Most people will say, oh, well, this is poison ivy that your daughter has. And now we're saying, oh, she has an allergy to some other chemical. But it's always unknown, right? And they kind of look at you like, oh, let me take these anti-inflammatory things. Well, my take is, let's clear the body first. And then if that's necessary, awesome. But if the body's not clear and we just keep overriding it and dumping it with allopathic drugs that are giving it one more thing to have to process that it's already struggling to process, that's not the way I want to do it with my kids, right? So, and having a 16-year-old, it's great to have it on paper so she could see the physical evidence. Yes, this works. Look what we did with your sister. Look what I did. This is something that actually works. And she is a different person, just so you know. Both of my kids have done a lot, but I am so excited for my 16-year-old to have the physical evidence so that she will start using the TRS spray and not think of it as, something that her crazy mom's making her do, because what she has done is she eliminated the foods that were really causing stress for her body and causing inflammation for her. And she's done some other things I'm going to talk to you about in a different video. But now I know with the implementation of this TRS spray, we're on the right path. And I'm really grateful to have it. I'm super grateful to have it. So there's my little thing about toxicity, mental health, and, hopefully detoxing. So I hope it helps you. It doesn't taste like anything. It's super simple, or else my 7-year-old would definitely not have been taking it this whole time. So hopefully this helps, or at least gives you something to think about. Have a good day. Bye.